Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kari, and today I have a really exciting video because I'm going to be taking you out into Paris with me. Today is Saturday, October 1st, so I'm trying to have like a spooky, bookish day out in Paris in order to celebrate it officially being October, and basically like the first of 31 days of Halloween for me. So some of the things that I want to do today to celebrate are to go to Père Lachaise Cemetery, which is the most visited cemetery in the world. People like Oscar Wilde, Jim Morrison, Edith Piaf, Marcel Proust, so many other famous authors and artists are buried at Père Lachaise, so that's what makes this cemetery so famous and popular. And not only that, but it's absolutely beautiful. If you love just walking around cemeteries, wait till you see Père Lachaise. Like, it's incredible. Another thing that I have to do today, no questions asked, is go buy more Halloween books. There are a few books that I have on my radar, but I'm also just gonna walk around and see if anything seems really interesting for Halloween. So I'm looking forward to doing some Halloween book shopping. I also need to get my first pumpkin drink at Starbucks, and I'm gonna try to do a couple other spooky things while I'm out and about. But while I'm out running around, I'm also gonna be reading, and I just finished a book last night, and that's I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid. This is a reread. If you saw my October TBR, you'll know that I wanted to reread this, and I just finished it yesterday, so I'm ready for a new book. And just for information, the first time I read this, it was a 5 stars, and on my reread, it definitely maintains its 5 stars. This book is so freaking good. If you're looking for something to read this October, pick up I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid. You won't regret it. It's so good. And since I finished that book last night, I'm ready for a new book this morning. And again, if you saw my October TBR, you'll know that I was really looking forward to getting a copy of this book and reading it in October, and that's Hidden Pictures by Rekulak. I honestly have no idea what this is about, but I've just heard so many people rave about how good it is, so I just want to go into it blind, and I hope that I love it. I'm going to keep you updated what happens, and I'll definitely give you a little synopsis and what I'm thinking about it so far once I get into this. So I'm going to be taking Hidden Pictures around with me today in Paris to really kick off spooky season reading. I'm really looking forward to getting some reading done. So if you're ready to kick off October like I am, and you want to feel some Parisian atmospheric spooky vibes, stick around. I think you're going to enjoy this. With all that being said, let's head out and start having fun. Hey guys, so I want to do a little update. I'm trying to be quiet, so hopefully you can hear me. I want to stay respectful that this is a cemetery, but I do want to give you an update because I've been doing some reading of hidden pictures and I'm freaking loving it so far. It's so good. So basically so far, it's about a young woman who really struggled with drugs and alcohol for a while in her late teens, and then she decides that she wants to get sober. And then when she's sober for a good amount of time, I forget how long, maybe like a year and a half or something, her sponsor or mentor, I forget what they're called, he finds her a job as a nanny for this little boy. He's 5 years old and his name is Teddy. So we're with her when she goes on her job interview and she meets Teddy's mom and even his dad. And his dad is kind of giving off bad vibes to her, like he doesn't want to hire her because they know that she's an ex-addict, like they know her sponsor. But in the end, the mom really wants to hire her, so she gets hired. And as we start to get to know Teddy, we find out that he loves to draw these little pictures. And a lot of them are just normal little kid pictures, you know, of like a bunny and all these different animals. But then he also draws his imaginary friends. And his imaginary friend is freaky as shit. And so Teddy claims that his imaginary friend is real, and that's how he knows how to draw her because he's seen her before. And so obviously this is a little bit concerning to the mom, but she kind of reduces it to the fact that all little kids have invisible friends and that they shouldn't be worried. But obviously since this is a horror book, something's probably pretty real about his imaginary friend. Anyway, I'm loving it so far, and it's so fun to be reading this scary book in a cemetery. Like, it's so fun, and I'm loving walking around Père Lachaise. It's been years since I've been here, and I need to start coming here more often. Like, I love it. It's just so peaceful, and it's really beautiful. The tombs here are, seriously, they're like pieces of art. So I hope you've been enjoying all the different things that you've seen so far, and that you continue to enjoy our little trip to Père Lachaise. Alright, so I'm home now. I put on my Tower of Terror pajama shirt because obviously Tower of Terror makes any spooky day spookier. So anyway, I spent my whole day out walking around Père Lachaise, going to bookstores, just walking around Paris. I got Chipotle for dinner. I got some sofritas. It's so good. But most importantly, I had a really spooky day of reading. Also, when I got home, I had a nice little surprise that I had some book mail waiting for me. I mean, what better way to come home and finish the day than having book mail? And I know that these are some spooky reads that I definitely want to read this month for spooky season. And so I'm definitely going to open these up with you in just a minute. But first I want to show you the books that I picked up at the bookstores today in Paris. So I have my little bag here of 2 books that I bought. And I ended up getting both of these at Smith & Son. I didn't find anything at Galignani, but that's fine. So the first book that I got at Smith & Son is Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix. I really don't know too much about the plot of this. All I know is that it's like a haunted IKEA. And the book is set up like an IKEA instruction manual. So I'm really looking forward to reading this month. I think it's gonna be really good. I love going to IKEA and I cannot imagine being in a haunted IKEA. Like, that place is a maze. If you got stuck in there and it was haunted, that would be absolutely terrifying because you cannot escape. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to reading this month. And the second book I got, I've been dying to read this book since I found out about its existence and saw the art inside. I've already mentioned this book a couple times on my channel, so maybe you've already heard me talk about it, but I'm so excited to read this because it's beautiful. And that's My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. So as I said in my October TBR, this is an adult horror graphic novel, and it's basically set up in the form of a little 10-year-old girl's diary where she's trying to solve the murder of her upstairs neighbor. But the reason that this book caught my attention is that the art is insane. It's so beautiful. It's done with a Bic style pen. I mean, you can see just how absolutely stunning the illustrations are. I've never seen a book illustrated like this before, and I'm so excited to read it. I mean, this is just a beautiful book, which explains why it was so freaking expensive. It is very expensive, but this is just like a piece of art, literally just the book itself. I mean, all the art inside of it is a masterpiece, but the book itself is so pretty, and it's such a heavy duty book. Like, it's just a heavy book. You can tell this is a well-made book. Okay, I'm done fangirling about this book, but I'm so excited to read this, and the sequel just came out like a week ago, I think, so if I power through this one, I'm definitely gonna pick up the second one. Also, it's blurbed by Alison Bechdel, and I love their graphic novels. Like, they make such great graphic novels as well, so I think this is really promising. So these are the 2 books that I got at the bookstore today in Paris, and now I'll open the 2 books that I came home to, which are also spooky reads. So the first book is, wow, this is way smaller than I was expecting. This is tiny. Okay, the first one is The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy by Tim Burton. So I love Tim Burton movies. Maybe you noticed that the raincoat I was wearing today was a Jack Skellington raincoat. And in my October TBR, I had a bunch of Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. I mean, I love Tim Burton year round, but especially at Halloween, I mean, you can't go wrong watching a Tim Burton movie. And so I recently found out he has this little book, I mean, very little now that I see it, of short stories. And there's even illustrations with the short stories. So I just opened it up to this page. And actually this little girl, she looks like the girl from Frankenweenie, which I love Frankenweenie. So anyway, just flipping through this, I can tell all the stories are very, very short. Like, they're like poem length basically, but they all have an illustration and they look so cool. So anyway, I love Tim Burton. I'm really looking forward to this, and I think this will be something fun to read in October. And the second book that I had waiting for me at home, and this is actually a book I forgot to talk about in my October TBR, but I'm definitely gonna read it this month. And that's Iain Reid's new release. It's called We Spread. So Iain Reid is the author of the book I finished last night, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and like I already said, I freaking love that book. Iain Reid just released this book like last week, I think it was, so it's a brand new release. So I don't know a lot about this book because I definitely want to go in blind, because that's how I went into I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and that's definitely the way you should go into I'm Thinking of Ending Things. But from what I know about this book is that it follows like an elderly lady who's losing her mind, basically, like losing her memory, and she lives at like an assisted living home, and something's happening to her. I have no idea what, but I'm really looking forward to finding out, and it's really not that long, and the formatting on these pages is really spaced out, so I think it'll be a really fast read. So anyway, here's my little book haul from the day. I have The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories by Tim Burton, Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix, We Spread by Iain Reid, and My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. All 4 of these are definitely going to get read this month. I'm so excited. Like, I feel like I need to do a 24-hour readathon and read these books. I'm so excited to get into these. So anyway, now that I have a bunch more books to add to my October TBR, let's talk about one that I'm currently in the process of reading. So as you will have seen, I've been reading Hidden Pictures all day, and I gave you a little update telling you what was going on so far and that I was loving it. And I've read even more since then, and nothing has changed. I'm obsessed with this book. It's so good and so atmospheric. atmospheric. And honestly, I thought I was gonna read some of this when I got into bed tonight, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm too freaked out to read this in bed. It was different reading it in the daytime, even though I was in a cemetery, but still, it was the daytime. Now trying to think about it as it's getting darker, trying to read this in bed in the dark, yeah, I don't know if I can. Because you will have seen some of the pictures that this little kid is drawing, and they're so freaky. Like, I don't know if I can look at those pictures while I'm in bed. So I don't remember exactly where I left off giving you an update, but basically since this main character was hired to be the live-in nanny of this little boy, the mom and dad had this little like grandparents suite out in the backyard, you know, like a separate living space out in the backyard. Not in the backyard, but you know, just like a little cottage out in the backyard that they fixed up nicely for her to live in. And then one day she runs into the next door neighbor, and basically the neighbor gives her the creeps about what's happened in this little cottage because this family just recently moved into the house. But the neighbor tells her that before this family recently moved in, that the little cottage was abandoned for like decades or something because there used to be a woman who lived in the house and she used that cottage as like her art studio. And so there's this like big mystery about what happened to her. They don't know if she was killed or whatever. And so the neighbor is just telling her like, oh yeah, when we were kids, we used to dare each other to go up and look in the windows of that cottage. And so all that to say, the neighbor is really freaking this girl out about living in this cottage, but she's gonna do it anyway because she's kind of desperate for this job, you know, because she's an ex-addict, her job options are very limited. And so she's just happy to have this job. So she's gonna stay there. And so I already told you about the little boy's invisible friend that he draws that is really freaky looking. And now just very close to where I am in the book now, the main character hears the little boy talking in his room, like the door's shut and he's just talking to himself. But like she's starting to question, is he talking to this imaginary friend? But the stuff that she hears isn't like freaky stuff, you know? And the more days that pass, the more drawings this little kid is doing for his new nanny. And the most recent one I saw is a man dragging this woman by her ankles. And so that's a little concerning, right? And so the nanny's like, what made you draw this? And he's like, oh, my invisible friend made me draw it. And the nanny's like, what? Was it like Pictionary or something? She was describing it to you and you drew it. And he starts cracking up, which is never a good sign when a little kid starts cracking up when they're like a freaky little kid. And he's like, no, she acted it out and then I drew it. Like, okay. And so the mom had asked the nanny to collect all the drawings that this little kid does because she wants to scan them into her computer to like keep a memory of everything that he draws. And so she goes to put it in the collection of other drawings to give to the mom. And the little boy's like, no, my invisible friend wants you to have that picture. So that really freaks her out. So anyway, I'm on page 85 of like over 300 pages. So I'm honestly really not even that far into it yet, but I am hooked. This is so good. It's giving really atmospheric October vibes. If you're looking for an atmospheric book to be reading in October, so far I would definitely recommend this one. I'm loving it. Once I finish this, I'll definitely let you know what I think in another video, but so far I'm loving it. All right, with all that being said, that brings this spooky day in Paris to a close. I really enjoyed spending this day with you. I hope you enjoyed it as well and that it put you in the October mood and made you really excited about the fact that October just began. And this is just the first of a few spooky vlogs that I'm going to do in October, so watch out for the rest of those. I hope that your October spooky reading is off to a great start. Let me know down in the comments below what you're reading this October. I'm always willing to add more books to my October TBR, so definitely let me know if you've read anything already that's really good that you would recommend or what you're planning to read this October. Would love to hear it. If you like this video, please give it a like. I would really appreciate it, and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you back. And I'll talk to you again in another spooky video. Bye!